What do you think, Roxy? What do you think? Do you think we look pretty? Do you think we look pretty, Roxy? I don't know. It's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. We got 4K, 30 frame per second going on. We have our Loom Cube. Our Loom Cube is now slightly above the camera, pointing down. We have our little microphone. Wow. We might. Well, we're not professional. We're probably not up to the professional level, but we're doing better. We're doing better with our setup. What do you all think at home? What do you all think? I know what you all think. You're like, Roxy's in the picture. I know. You don't care about the 4K. You don't care about the microphone. You just want to see some more Roxy going on. Anywho. If you don't know who I am, I'm known as, or no, what is it? That's not what I'm supposed to say. What am I doing here? Anyways, as you may or may not know, I am known as Eli, the computer guy. This is Roxy, the Chihuahua, the nicest Chihuahua in the whole wide world. Look at this little Chihuahua. And my project is silicondojo.com. Basically, the idea is what if high-quality technology education was simply as accessible as water? I do a lot of stuff over there. We have self-study classes. I'm going to start the Introduction to Programming self-study class next week for you all free to the end user. Gatekeepers, authority lists, the whole 9 yards. We do Zoom classes, and we do Zoom guests. We're going to have guests soon. Our first guest, Martin Lehner, is Wednesday, coming up, Wednesday at 2 o'clock. So he runs an MSP up in the Yukon, and we get to talk about what's currently going on and how that affects him as a owner of a technology company in Canada. That should be fun. That should be painful. Should be painful to hear. Really? What has our president done to you today? Yes, Martin. Point on the computer where our president touched you. Anyways, that's going to be coming Wednesday. And I also do, one-on-one conversations with folks every Monday between 1 to 5 p.m. Generally do 4 to 6 of those per week. You can sign up for any of that kind of stuff at silicondojo.com. And I'm working on this whole setup because my wife and I might be going on the road. Again, we might be going back to the nomad thing. We did nomading before nomading was cool. True story. We took a travel trailer out for a year back in 2015. Back then, and we're thinking about doing that again. But in order to do that again, it's again one of the things that I tell you folks is there is workflow. There are systems. You don't just say you're going to do something. You have to figure out how to actually do it. So even if something is idiotically, seemingly simple as sitting here talking into a webcam, actually has some stuff that goes along with it, and that's one of the reasons that I'm trying to fix some stuff up now and figure out the best way to do this. So the idea being is I can just pick up all this, I just pick it up, and then I can move it to Tampa. Or I can pick it up and I can move it to Acadia. I can pick it up and I can move it to Seattle. Again, as I say, that's the idea. So I got my computer over here. So I got the computer over here, so we can do the computer stuff. I got my iPad thing over there. And so when we do classes, so I'll have the computer, so I can do demonstrations on the computer. I have the iPad, so I can use that as a whiteboard. I have the Chihuahua, so that you guys show up and actually watch the damn video. So Eli, yeah, so you're on YouTube. So what do you do on YouTube? Well, what I mainly do is I have a Chihuahua on my lap. And then with a Chihuahua on my lap, I teach people TCP/IP. Anyways, maybe that'll work for us. So what is the question for today? So I had a buddy of mine. I thought this was an interesting question to ask. Basically asking me about whether they should transfer in their company. So this is a curious question, especially right now, since we have no idea what the hell is going on. Again, as I've argued before, I've argued for many years, right? Good systems default to good outcomes, bad systems default to bad outcomes, and no system defaults to whatever the ever-loving hell is currently going on with United States foreign policy. Anyways, did you hear today? So So we've been going along, and so Trump put 145% to 145% tariffs against Chinese goods coming to the United States, and then China put 125% tariffs against American goods going into China. So I was talking about what disaster that's going to be. So again, things like, as a technology professional, why you need to be thinking about this is, what happens when things like iPhones now cost, $2,500. Oh, it's idiotic to spend $1,000 on an iPhone? What is it to spend $2,500 on an iPhone? Especially when $1,500 of that is Trump tax. That's right, the Trump Republicans are putting absolutely massive taxes on to everybody. The Trump Republicans are putting these taxes on to everybody so that everybody gets health care in the United States? No. So that we can fix our education system in the United States? No. So that we can fix housing in the United States? No. Everybody is going to be paying all of these taxes so that Elon Musk can get a tax break. Because if there's one thing we know about our society, when we look at the problems of our society, the problem is that Elon Musk doesn't have enough money. I was telling my wife the other day about that. I was like, oh, dear, I don't know. What should we do? Should we stay in Asheville? Should we go to Miami? Should we become digital nomads? In this day and age where Elon Musk only has $400 billion, I just don't know what we should do. So anyways, right, so this is going to get pushed through, or this has been pushed through, and I've been talking about the policy ramifications of that. And then apparently today, now electronics and computers are going to be exempt from those tariffs, from China tariffs. I don't know. I'm not even being snarky. I'm not even being mean. I just don't even know this isn't globalization versus anti-globalization. This isn't NATO versus anti-NATO. This is, no, serious. Dude, what's going on? What's going on other than destroying the United States? I get it. Trump is trying to destroy the United States. But other than destroying the United States, what is he trying to accomplish? Anyway, but that's the world we're in. So you're watching this video, and you're like, hey, why is Eli a little bit of a basket case? Well, one, because I'm just a little bit of a basket case. And two, because Trump is doing whatever Trump is doing. I don't know what Trump's doing. Is this MAGA? I don't even know what this is. This is what it is. Anyways, but it was interesting, right? Because I was talking to my buddy, and we're talking about the whole economic disaster that is currently going on. And again, it's been an economic crap show since, 2007. So 2007 in the United States was probably the last time the U.S. had an economy that made half an ounce of sense. Past that, we had what Alan Greenspan called irrational exuberance, where basically when the government pushes policies and then people accept those policies and go too far with them, then that's a bad thing. Anyways, we had the Great Recession because of irrational exuberance and, god-awful government policies. But don't blame the politicians. Don't blame the politicians. Anyways, and then after that, so we had Bush put us into that, then Obama again kept interest rates and a whole bunch of other things incredibly low, and then you had Trump, and then you have Biden, and now you have Trump again, and basically the wheels are coming off of our economy. They're coming off a little bit faster. Like, I would prefer that Trump isn't literally loosening the lug nuts. It's one thing to say, hey, the wheels are going to come off of the economy regardless. But then when your president is literally loosening the lug nuts as you're zipping down the mountain at 150 miles an hour, it's like, yeah, could we stop that? Anyways, so I have all this stuff going on. And again, I think it's not going to be good. Again, the dominoes fall. I know some people are watching this and they're like, Eli, it's not so bad yet. And again, the tariffs, whatever they are, have just gone through. Everything is so chaotic. Nobody really knows what to do. And there was that kind of lull in the storm, like when a really nasty storm is about to hit, and then everything gets quiet. And you're like, look, it's beautiful. Look, Eli, it's beautiful. It's a nice sunny day, and it's quiet, and it's wonderful, and you're talking about a storm. And then all hell breaks loose. So anyways, it was interesting to talk to my buddy because he was asking about my thoughts on transferring in his own company. So he works for a company, seems to be doing well. No obvious cracks on the outside. It's like, Eli, should I transfer in my company? And the first thing I told him was F off. He was like, what? And my answer was basically Five Guys, burgers and fries. He's like, Eli, should I transfer in my company to another team? And I looked at him and I told him from the bottom of my heart, do you know how good a bacon cheeseburger is from Five Guys, burger and fries? Fries. He was like, what the hell are you talking about? And I looked at him and I told him, I already have a wife. I already have one woman who's willing to take a chunk out of my ass. I don't need his wife wanting to take a chunk out of my ass. Call it self-protection. And why I say that is, again, the important thing to be thinking about in the world, in the wider world, when we talk about technology, when we talk about careers, we talk about macro forces and all that kind of stuff, is that it's a bet. Whatever you do is a bet. The sad thing about young folks nowadays, it's so hilariously, pathetically funny. And they're like, what should I do to guarantee success? And I could say a lot of things right now, but I would prefer not to be canceled on YouTube and in life in general. Let's just say you can't guarantee success, right? Basically, you go out there, and you place your bets, you put your money on the table, and then life happens, and you just don't know how that's gonna go. You literally just don't know how that's gonna go. Again, I have a scar here. I don't know if you can see it anymore. Oh, that was way too bad a beating to not have a good scar. But anyways, I was in Thailand. I was in Thailand back in the 2000s, right? I was off backpacking through Thailand, doing the stuff. I was gonna go all through Southeast Asia. I think I was on Koh Phi Phi. I was on Koh Phi Phi about 6 months after the tsunami happened. And I was there, and there was these two Israeli girls, and I was flirting with the Israeli girls, and I was going well with the Israeli girls, and we ordered a whiskey bucket. So we're on Koh Phi Phi, and we order a whiskey bucket. And then we drink the whiskey bucket, and I remember looking at the blonde girl, and I was like, hey, do you want another whiskey bucket? And I remember her saying, yes, I do. And that's the last thing I remember. The next thing I remember was being hogtied in a clinic, thinking I was gonna get gutted like a fish. Literally, hands were bound behind my back. I was face down on this bed, looking over at a whole stainless steel cabinet of medical accoutrement. And I thought, well, there goes my liver. Quite literally. Woke up in the morning in my poop and sick and all kinds of other nasty things. And basically this side of my face was so swollen. Didn't even know if I was gonna be able to see out of it again. I had stitches here, I had teeth broken out, the whole 9 yards. And nobody knows what happened. Basically, apparently the Brits found me in the ocean going, la, 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 with blood coming down my face and the whole 9 yards. And I got taken to this clinic that was being run by these Aussies, and they patched me up, and they said, yeah, those whiskey buckets are like petrol. Don't drink whiskey buckets. Things happen when people drink whiskey buckets. And then they said, because this was after the tsunami, they were like, look, there's no military on this island. There's no police on this island. There's no official presence on this island. We have no idea what happened to you. Literally no idea what happened to you. So there is a boat in 30 minutes. Your ass needs to get on that boat and go the fuck away. Anyway, so I got on the boat. Again, this is the real world. This is the real world. Right? I'm sitting there. I'm nauseous. Fucking can't see out of my face. Got my backpack on the back. Oh, the waves were so horrible that day. Spaghetti Monster was like, ha ha, ha ha, ha ha. Anyways, I then get to Phuket. There's this place called Phuket. I find myself a little hotel room for $17 a day because I'm splurging. And I remember looking in the mirror as I'm just, all the energy is falling out of my body, and I'm thinking, I wonder if I'm gonna wake up. Because again, it was bad. Anyways, literally slept for like 18 hours straight, and then stayed in that hotel room for about a week until I hobbled my ass and continued on the trip. Anyways, I ended up canceling the trip because I needed dental work done. Wanted the dental work to be done in the United States. And I come back to the United States and I get some dental work done. And then I go to Brewer's Art, which used to be the coolest bar in all of Baltimore. And I'm at Brewer's Art, and then I go there because my buddy wanted me to come out. I was like, look, I'm still not feeling great after Thailand. He's like, come out to Brewer's Art. So I then go to Brewer's Art, and when I get to Brewer's Art, my buddy is macking on a lesbian. He is just sitting there macking on a lesbian. And how do I know she's a lesbian? Because she's like, hi, I'm whatever her name is. I'm a lesbian. And yeah, my friend kept trying to go, kept trying. So anyways, I'm sitting in this bar. I'm still healing up from everything, not really sure what to do. I start talking to this girl that's beside me. One thing leads to another. I go back to the table where her friends are, and then I meet my wife. That, my friends, is how I met my wife. Ela, yeah, you've been with your wife for 20 years. Yeah, I want to find a woman and settle down. Like how did you meet your wife? Well, I was flirting with this Israeli in Koh Phi Phi after the tsunami. I literally got beat half to fucking death and thought I was gonna get gutted like a fish. I limped my sorry ass home all the way back to the United States so that I could have an American patch up my mouth. And then I go to a bar to have my buddy macking on a lesbian and ignore me, and that's how I met my wife. What? What? Yeah, I don't know. Welcome to my life. Anyways, the big thing to understand with all this is that life is a bet. Life is a bet. When you think you're gonna win, there's a good chance you're gonna lose. And when you think you're gonna lose, there's a good chance you might win. It's just how things go, right? And again, I think that's the interesting thing with a lot of young folks nowadays. They want to know what to do. Eli, and again, I get this with the one-on-ones. Eli, what do I need to do? Dude, I don't know. Five Guys Burger and Fries. Fucking hell, that bacon cheeseburger. Oh, that's so good. So good. What does that have to do with the server room? I don't know. But it's a really good hamburger. I mean, if you're into that kind of thing, I'm gonna have a hamburger tonight. Do you know who's gonna have a hamburger tonight? Do you know whose vegan wife is out of town for a couple of days? The vegan wife that I adore to no end, out of town for a couple of days. Somebody's eating a bacon cheeseburger. Anyhow, it is one of those things to be thinking about. Anybody tells you what you need to do, you probably know, no, don't do that. Anyways, but I was talking to my buddy about this because he has the ability to transfer in his company, right? So he's a company's doing well enough, everything seems to be doing fine enough as the economy goes to hell. Then again, this is going to be bad, right? The dominoes have not fallen yet. The dominoes will fall because the dominoes need to fall. Again, you really have to understand that. Again, as somebody who's run a business and had employees and supported businesses for God knows how long, again, you don't even know what to do with this. Again, I've said this for a long time, right? You don't need good taxes. You don't even need good regulations. You need stable taxes and stable regulations. We have the exact opposite of that. Like, our tax and regulatory regime is literally changing by the day on a whim. And it doesn't even seem like it's a it's a binary thing. It's not like, the Chinese have done X, ergo we're not going to have tariffs on phones. It's, Trump thought the markets were getting yippy. Fuck. What? Oh, you literally listen to him and you're like, oh my God, that came out of his mouth. Oh yeah, well yeah, the markets got a little yippy. So obviously when markets get yippy, that means you do a 90-day pause on tariffs because, yips. So anyways, and again, that's the thing to be thinking about, the macro forces, and then your particular decisions. And that's where I think it's concerning right now. It's something to be thinking about. Again, a lot of folks with being in companies. Because what I've seen in the past, and this is something that happened during the Great Recession, is people transferred into departments, and then the departments they got transferred into got liquidated. Right? That is a thing that that's not only can happen, I have literally seen that happen in the real world, right? Where somebody was in a department, they're there for 5, 8 years, whatever else, and they were solid in that department, right? They got all the kudos and all that kind of stuff. But they're in their industry, they're in their company, so they're like, look, I feel very solid about this. I want to move ahead in my industry. And so in order to move ahead, you need to understand more components. Again, you need to understand a little bit about that biz dev. Oh, you're a really good engineer, but you want to create a startup company at some point? Well, you should probably learn about biz dev or marketing or sales or business analyst, that type of thing. That would be, and so you're like, look, this is a good, solid company. I have a good reputation in this company. I've been doing this thing, right? If I can lateral over, and again, that business analyst position or something like that, right? Then I get to have that experience as I keep my paycheck and my benefits, and then I can go to the top. Well, again, what happens if you go from this department over to this department, and then this department gets liquidated? Again, as I've talked about before, it's not personal. Again, Jerry Berg did a great video about this back in 2015. He worked for Microsoft. He was in a department with 2,500 employees, and literally one day they just liquidated the department. It was not personal. Jerry was not laid off. The department was just liquidated, right? And one of the issues to be thinking about, with a lot of these businesses right now, is they've got to figure out what to do going forward. And again, that's one thing I talked about in the last video, is how do you know if your business is failing? Right, again, business is growing, business is plateauing, business is failing. And one of the things I've said is when businesses start failing, the issue that you start to see is that the business literally starts cannibalizing itself. It's the equivalent of gnawing on its own toes, right? Well, if we eat our own toes, we'll be able to survive longer. Right, you start to see weird things happening. One of the issues is when we have an economic crap show, like we're going into, whatever else, is that many times businesses don't really know what to do. They know they have problems, they know they have issues on the horizon, and so then the question is how do you again, how do you chop off enough of your body parts to keep the rest of the organism going? And so that's like with one person I know went into sales, right? So they're actually in the construction industry. They dealt with the building and the blueprints and all that kind of stuff, the engineering. They went over to sales. And when the Great Recession happened, they actually kept the engineering department. They kept the construction workers, but they eliminated the salespeople. Because basically what they looked at, they said, look, all sales have stopped. Doesn't matter how good our sales team is, they're just not going to be able to sell much of anything. So what they did is they doubled down on the projects that they already had, and then they used a couple of salespeople to try to go after like multi-unit projects. And so instead of one project at a time, they're trying to go after bigger projects. And so they basically just eliminated the sales staff because they didn't need it anymore. Well, he was no longer in the engineering division. He was now in the sales division. So his ass went the hell out the door, which is a bit of a brutal thing, right? And so that's something that you have to be considering nowadays, is like when you're looking at your company, do you transition to another position? The other issue that you can run into too is, are you in a position that is likely to be eliminated once your executives get around to, looking at the books? Right, a lot of these executives out there, they're just throwing the money around. What happens when they realize they got to look at the books, and they realize the books don't look very good, and so they've got to start eliminating things? Are you in a department that is likely to be eliminated if things go sideways? And so that's something that you really need to consider now. And again, it's the agency that you have in your own career. And that's the hard thing, is it's like, it's luck and it's macro forces and it's also agency. So it's you looking at the things that are going on around you, you communicating with people to better understand what your business actually needs, and then you trying to put yourself into a position where you don't get laid off. So the issue you can have, like I say, if you move from one department to another department, one of the big questions there is, okay, that's the new sexy cool department, but is that a department or is that a team that will still be vital if the company needs to reallocate their resources, right? So a lot of companies right now, pushing into AI, pushing into a lot of different things, right? They have their one product offering, right? This is their one product offering that everybody knows, everybody loves. This is amazing, but that's not going to make them enough money, so they start to do some side projects. One of the questions you have to ask yourself with these additional side projects is, are these side projects that the company really believes in and is going to keep pushing forward on, or are these side projects that are essentially going to get cleaved and they're going to go away whenever there's a bit of a blip in the market or a blip in the economy, right? That's one of the things, like moonshots. Moonshots are sexy during a good economy, right? You go back to 2015, again, you hear about like Google moonshots and Facebook was doing moonshots. Everybody was doing moonshots, just shooting the hell out of the moon. The moon shouldn't have said that. The moon disrespected us, so we're gonna shoot the moon, right? Anyways, everybody was doing moonshots, right? Facebook was coming up with these massive autonomous internet aircraft. Google was just doing every goddamn thing in the world. All these companies were doing moonshots. Well, the problem is a lot of those moonshots most likely are not going to bring back revenue. Again, why it's a moonshot is 99% of them will fail. One of them will become the next Google. Well, the thing is, if 99% of them are going to fail, you might be safe cutting 50 of those projects. Right? That's just kind of the reality. And so that's one of the issues that can happen is you're working those moonshots. They're really cool and really sexy during the good boom years. But as soon as money starts drying up, those are the easiest things to get rid of. And not only are they not profitable, not only are they not bringing in revenue, but the fact of the matter is they don't even know if they will. They don't even know if they will have a revenue generating product at the end of it. Gone. And so that's something to consider there, is that if you're going to be moving into another department, how likely is it that it could get just eliminated? The other thing to be thinking about is basically like how seniority works in your company, especially in a startup company. So seniority, many times when you deal with real institutions. Again, you go work for IBM's of the world, Microsoft's of the world, Google's of the world, that kind of thing. Many times seniority is kind of like a company seniority, right? You got 10 years with a company, and that means you should have 10 years seniority. Even if you go over to a different team, hopefully that 10 years with the company, that gives you some padding, that gives you some protection. One of the issues you do have to think about with startup companies, again, one of the big things with startup companies is how much responsibility you get. Why do you want to go work for a startup company? Because you will get more responsibility than anybody should ever give you. If you're like, wow, I can't believe they gave me this much responsibility. Yeah, nobody else can believe it either, right? But the thing is, remember, just like you're getting more responsibility than you should get, right? You're doing React development and SQL and AI and all this other stuff. Do also remember your managers and your team leaders are probably getting more responsibility than they should get too, right? These are probably not old school managers who have been through a couple of boom and bust cycles in the economy, and they're just gonna do what they did before, right? You got a 28-year-old running your team. Guess what? That 28-year-old has the experience of a 28-year-old. And so here's the thing, right? They have a team. Let's say you have a 10-person team. You bring a new person in the team. Now that new person has been with a company for a long time, but they're new to the team. All of a sudden, the team doesn't get entirely liquidated, but basically executives come down to that team lead and said, hey, you are going to have to look at your team members and decide who's got to go. And again, right? How should this work? Oh, it should be so rational. It should be so right. It should be KPIs. It should be KPIs all the way down, right? They should pull out your key performance indicators. They should do some math. And then whoever is the worst in the KPIs, they should get laid off because they didn't do well, right? But that's not really how it works. Basically, how it works is you have like some manager or team lead, and they're looking around their team, and they're like, oh my God, but I like my team. But I like my team. I like that team member, and I like that team member, and I like that team member, and that team member. Oh, I mean, they annoy me, but they annoy me in the way that I like to be annoyed. Oh, like again, that's the whole thing. Like it's passion and motivation. We're changing the world. You know, this horse crap, right? Anyways. So I got this team. And they got this team that they've had together where they're going to change the world. And now you have to tell one of these people that, hey, you know how I said we were going to change the world together? Yeah. Yeah, well, you're about to be homeless. What? Yeah, we're about to lay you off in an absolutely god-awful economy, and there's a good chance your career will never recover from what I'm about to do to you. What? Welcome to be a manager. I did Kempo. When I did Kempo, we literally had a guy in my Kempo classes. Do you know what his job literally was? You know what his job was? He literally flew around the company flew around the country for his company to fire people. His literal job was to walk into an office, call people into the conference room, and fire them. Because he really didn't have a problem firing people. And the company had an issue with managers not being able to fire people. And so they paid him to fly around the country, and his literal job was to fire people. Anyways, so you think about it, right? You got this team has been together, and you're going to change the world, and you don't want them to be homeless, you don't want them to be homeless, you don't want them to be homeless. But hey, you got this new kid. You got this new kid on the block. I mean, they just came into the team. What do you know about them? Do you know about their spouse? Do you know about their kids? Do you know about their dogs? Hey, I'm not gonna lose sleep at night about somebody's kids that I don't know exist. Who do you think is gonna get terminated? That poor bastard. And so that's one of the things to think about, right? If you move, the entire department can get terminated, or if you need to downsize, the company needs to downsize and the department needs to downsize, there's a good chance you're gonna be the first one to get kicked out the door. So you might be sitting there going, well, okay, I don't understand. That seems pretty reasonable. That seems understandable. So I'm just going to stay with where I'm at. Well, here's the issue with if you stay with where you're at. One of the problems you get to is I had an old buddy of mine years and years ago, and he said the people to get you to where you are not the people to get you to where you're going. Which again is one of those problems when you deal with poor people. You deal with poor socialists. Oh, they start screaming. How dare you? Right? Because, that doesn't sound good. They don't think that sounds good, right? This whole idea that the people that have gotten you to here, right, the people that help you get through college are not going to be the people that get you from college to the CEO position, right? But the thing is, everybody has their expertise, everybody has their knowledge, everybody has their mentorship ability, everybody has their resources, and the whole 9 yards, right? The people in the trailer park that help you get to college probably don't have the resources to tell you what to do when you get to the country club, you get to the golf club, or whatever else, right? You're going to need different people. The same thing is true with companies, right? And startup companies, right? The people and the resources you need to get from 0 to 60 are not necessarily the same resources that are required to get from 60 to 120, right? So think about you're building out your infrastructure. So initially when you go in and you're building out your infrastructure, there's all kinds of questions. Architecture questions, the kind of questions I love. Architecture, right? Do we build local or do we build hosted? Do we do private cloud or public cloud or hybrid cloud? Do we use Citrix or do we use Hyper-V? Do we use Linux or do we use a Microsoft stack? Do we use AWS or Azure? Right? And then here's the thing, right? Then you're going to do all those, there's going to be discussions. And there's certain types of people that you want around to have when you're making decisions about the architecture that you're going to have. Here's the thing. Once you decide on your architecture, you don't necessarily need those people anymore. Again, once you're married to the Microsoft stack, you don't need long philosophical discussions about AWS and Linux because you're on Microsoft. Again, it's called legacy. It's called legacy. It never goes away, right? That crappy little 2012 Windows Server over there, that is a true Nepo baby of the tech world. It was here before you were, and it will be here long after you are, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. Doesn't matter how many arguments you have over how many cases of beer, right? So anyways, you need certain types of people to argue about architecture, and then once you've made those arguments and you've deployed, then you need certain types of people to maintain the architecture that you have. Again, that's one of the reasons I don't want to go back in the normal employment world. Eli, if you're so smart, why don't you go off to a server room again? Because it's boring as snot. Again, as I've said, if your tech stack is working how it's supposed to, your job should be pretty fucking boring. If your job is exciting as a technology professional, it means your team lead is a piece of crap and your executives are a waste of time, right? Basically, you should be streamlining and systematizing everything as much as possible so that everything just does what the hell it's supposed to do. So the people that decide and build architecture are not necessarily the same people to maintain architecture once you've got it up and running. The other thing to be thinking about, like with startup companies, is when you're building stuff, right? You go in there and you're building front-end interfaces, you're building the back-end systems, you're building all this kind of different things. Well, again, one of the things to consider is that once that kind of thing is built, how many more resources really need to be put into it? Again, during the good times, let's say you're on a team of 8 people. So these 8 people got put on this project like 4 years ago, and 4 years ago, you were all busting your ass. And then 3 years ago, you're all working hard. And 2 years ago, you're all working. And 1 year ago, you're putting in your time. And now you go in and you make sure everything works. That's the thing, is right, as you go, again, the requirements, the load on your work should go down. And so one of the things that the CEOs and the executives need to be thinking about is, should they continue to allocate the resources to your department to the degree that they did 4 years ago or 3 years ago or 2 years ago or even 6 months ago? Right? And the other thing to be thinking about, again, when you have this whole economic disaster going on, is that, it's real cute for technology professionals to say, well, if you don't wipe my buttocks, I'll just leave and go work for another company. Right? Again, remember that with the whole quiet quitting horse crap from a couple of years ago, and this whole idea that employees are in the driver's seat? Remember when I used to laugh about that because it was so damn stupid? Anyways, right, here's the thing, right? When the economy changes, guess what? The people that can actually write paychecks, they're the ones in the driver's seat. So if they're looking at your team, and your team is basically doing, per person, let's say 20 hours of work a week, plus all this different stuff, it's like, hey, maybe we can start eliminating people. Even if we're going to keep the same workload that they've had, maybe we can just start, we can cut them down. If they had 8 people, we can cut them down to 6 people. Or, if they had, or maybe we can cut them down to 5, or maybe we can cut them down to 4. Hey, they're working 20 hours a week right now. You know what? They're not going to be able to get a job if they walk out the door. So why don't we just jack them up to 50 hours a week? You had 8 people, now you have 4. If you don't like it, find another job. Ha! You can't. All right? And again, that's one of the things that can really happen. And that's why going to a different department might make some sense. Again, you sit there and you're looking at the company. Like, one of the issues that a lot of companies have is many times their core products are not nearly as profitable as they thought they were going to be. Right? There's this idea like, oh, this is going to be a cash cow. And so they go and they do the whole investor thing, right? Investors throw lots and lots of money at them. They go and they hyper scale and then they take over the market. They own dog dating. Nobody else competes with us for dog dating. And then they find out that dog dating is just not that big a market. You own 99.5% of all dog dating in the world. But did anybody ask if dogs actually date? Dogs don't actually date that much. Ergo, there's just not a lot of money in the whole dog dating thing. And so one of the things to be thinking about, right? Is again, are the executives then thinking, okay, we need to branch into something else? Do we need to branch into cat dating or parakeet dating? Now, you might not think about it, right? There's not a lot of parakeets in the world. Parakeets are not the most popular pet in the world. But because they're not the most popular pet in the world, there's no competition in parakeet dating. Not only that, but people who own parakeets, they have far more yearly income than people who own dogs. So ergo, maybe what you need to do is split off and start doing parakeet dating. And so that's one of the things to consider. Is sometimes it's a good idea. Like you look around at your department, one of the questions you have to ask yourself is, has your department stagnated? Now I know when you go home, when you talk to the CEO, you're working hard. Every day you're going in there and busting your ass. But when you go to the bathroom, you look in the mirror and you talk to yourself, really? Are you still working hard? Are you still working that hard, or is that just what you tell people because you're supposed to tell people that? Because you work at a startup company, everybody knows how hard a startup company is, ergo, your job is hard, but is it actually that hard? And then you sit there and you're like, it did used to be harder. I do remember not that long ago when, I was working Saturdays and Sundays every once in a while. Yeah, I remember not that long ago, I was getting home at like 7 o'clock at night, and I can't remember the last time I worked till 7 o'clock at night. And then that might be the time to be like, maybe, perchance, the department has stagnated, and it's no longer as valuable to be in this department as it once was. Again, one of the things to be thinking about from the executive position is, again, that whole idea of inertia, right? Decisions take time. One of the reasons Trump's current economic policies are so idiotically god-awful is that you have a lot of business decision makers that are wasting a tremendous amount of time trying to figure out what to do next. Because here's the thing, right? Again, it's all a bet, but you got to make a decision. So are tariffs going to be 10%? If tariffs are going to be 10%, here's the plan. Okay, are tariffs going to be 50%? If tariffs are 50%, here's the plan. Are tariffs going to be 145%? What? Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Well, we're going to have a plan, right? But then, like, you're sitting there, you're trying to make these decisions, and then like every morning, it changes, and it's not like 1%. It's not like they came back and they went, oh, we realized blah blah blah. Ergo, it's not going to be 10% tariff. It's going to be 11% tariff. It's like, is it going to be 10%? Is it going to be 50%? Is it going to be 145%? Is it going to be nothing? Right? All of this, it's decisions. It's decisions that have to be made. And that's the thing, is like, one of the things a lot of young folks don't realize is why decision makers get paid so much more money in general is because they're in the position to make decisions not about their lives, but about the lives of everybody under them. Right? If they fail, not only do they lose their job, but 100 people lose their job, 1,000 people lose their job. Right? When Adam Neumann drove WeWork directly into the ground, I mean, he screwed his employees, he screwed his vendors, he screwed the people he leased properties from. Again, bad decisions hurt everybody, beyond the business. And so that's one of the things to be thinking about, is that a lot of times business leaders don't really want to make decisions. Like if things are working basically about how they seem to be working, right? Okay, we're bringing investment money in, money's coming in, money's going out, everything seems about fine. We're just gonna leave it. We're not gonna mess with anything we don't need to mess with, right? Well, the issue is right, we start having this economic disaster going on because Trump intentionally is just trying to destroy the United States. And then all of a sudden, right, again, those leaders then have to start looking at what's going on in their organization, and now they have to start making decisions. It's like they didn't want to make decisions before. They still don't want to make decisions. But now is the time. It's like, okay, if we're in this new economic environment, we do need to sit down and actually figure out what our organization looks like going forward. And so the issue that you can run into there is being a member of one of these teams. It's that whole thing of you. And again, this is the argument. This is the screaming you hear from employees. I didn't do anything wrong. Why am I being punished? I didn't do anything wrong. You're not being punished. You're being fired. Those aren't necessarily the same things, right? Again, Mark Zuckerberg is a complete and utter jackass, so he makes it seem like it's your fault. And a lot of people will make it seem like it's your fault. But here's the deal, right? The fact of the matter is, you could be doing the same stuff that you've been doing for 3 years, right? You go in, you get your progress reports, everything's going well, the whole 9 yards, and then all of a sudden you get fired. And the reason is because the environment has changed. I think about this when I worked in the corporate world. And we had a manager. We had a manager up in New Jersey. I still remember, and it was interesting. It was interesting, this manager. And so again, I go and I do the service calls or whatever up there. And everybody seemed like he was doing fine enough, right? I heard the upper level directors compliment him and tell him what a great job he was doing. His numbers seemed to be fine. Everything seemed to be fine, right? Again, like across the board. And again, I would actually be like doing my little computer stuff in meetings that I wasn't necessarily supposed to be listening to. And everybody seemed to, like, he was getting accolades and people were patting him on the back and yay. Well, the funny thing was, he got dragged down to the Baltimore office, and he goes in, he goes all nice and cocky, and like, yeah, because I'm the shit. I'm the shit. Walks in. About 15 minutes later, right? He's just got that. His head is down, like the entire body just kind of collapsed, and he kind of shuffles out of the building. I was like, huh, that's weird. So good, the human resources person, me being me, I'm like, yo, what happened? What happened with he seemed really sad or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, we just fired him. I was like, what? It's like, oh, and again, I was like, I thought he was doing really well. I mean, I've heard everybody compliment him. I've heard the directors compliment him, the whole 9 yards. I thought he was doing really good at his job. Like, what changed? Literally, and again, this is the real world of human resources. The human resources person looked at me and was like, oh, nothing's changed. We just didn't have anybody to replace him. He's like, what? It's like, oh yeah, we've wanted to replace him for quite a while now. The problem is we didn't have anybody we could replace him with, and he is the head of that department, so we need a head of the department to keep the department going. So yeah, we've just been buttering his ass for like 5 months, telling him what a wonderful job he's been doing so that he would not leave on his own accord, so that now we have somebody to replace him with. And he just got fired because he's a miserable piece of crap that's doing a horrible job in his position. Like, wow. That is the corporate world for you. That is the corporate world. But these are things to consider. These are some things to consider. And so when you're sitting there and you're thinking about, where to transition to, yeah. It's just a question. It's just a question. What I told my buddy when he asked me this is basically I told him to go start talking to people. Because again, that's the whole thing is like with business. Again, there is a rhyme or reason to business. It's the whole deal, right? If you have no interest in understanding the rules your business is operating in, don't be surprised when you don't understand what's going on with your career, right? But if you go and you start talking with people, it's amazing how people talk. People like to talk. Again, especially in the modern world of social media, right? Everybody wants to talk, nobody wants to listen. If you're the one person to come in and ask a question and then shut the hell up, it is amazing what kind of info dump people will give you. They will tell you crap they're probably legally not supposed to tell you half the time. Anyways, and so if you go, like with your company, what I told him is to go and start talking to people. Again, what are the priorities? What are the current priorities for the company? What are the current pain points for the company? What are the current issues the company is worried about? And what strategy does it look like the company is using to deal with those issues? And as they go into, again, the wider market out there, what problems are they dealing with? And it's amazing if you go out and you start talking with people, how you'll start to realize what the company actually cares about, and then it becomes easier to put yourself into a position where you're most likely not be screwed, right? So there you go. There are some things to think about. What's the answer? What's the answer? Five Guys, burger and fries. Bacon cheeseburger. I'm going to be eating it tonight. I'm going to be eating it. What time is it? Oh, it is 3:06. It is 3:06. 2 hours, bacon cheeseburger going down my gullet. What does that have to do with your career? No idea. But I can tell you it's a damn good hamburger. Anyways, so there's you go. There's some thoughts. But again, they're the big questions to be thinking about right now. Because when things, again, when the economy, when there's massive changes in the economy, it's just things slip. It's just like it's like there's this idea of like it doesn't fall, it slips. And like how it's just so weird how crap slips, how some people will be successful and other people will just fail miserably. You know, what is needed, what isn't needed. And so, again, for a lot of you folks, I mean, I'd be out there and I would just be talking with everybody around you so that you have a better idea of what's going on. Because I think that's the big thing. Again, it's interesting. Being in Nashville is just very interesting because we have so many remote tech employees. And again, like for me, I just don't really hang out with employees, or I didn't hang out with employees. I guess I hang out with employees now. And employees just have a different mindset. Employees just, again, they're tech, right? Oh yeah, they know whatever, but they're employees. And it's amazing, like, you know, I've been talking with people about this, about the economy and all that kind of stuff. And then what's so interesting is as I talk with people I know who are employees, I'm like, well, explain to me better how your business operates. And it's amazing how they're like, I don't know. It's like, what? Like they know their server room, they know the product that they support in the company. They literally do not understand the business that their company is in. And so if you don't understand the business that your company is in, how can you possibly make good decisions, right? Because that's what so many employees don't seem to understand. You're essentially you're a vendor to the company to provide services so that the company can be more successful. The more you understand about how the company operates, why the company operates the way that it does, what the environment the company operates in, the better it's going to be for you to be able to support that company and also understand when there are headwinds or whatever else coming down the pike. But it's amazing how many employees literally do not believe they have any need to understand the company that they work for. And then they get laid off and they start crying. And you're like, well, maybe if you understood your company a little bit better, you could have figured some stuff out. But anyways, those are just my thoughts. What's the answer? Bacon cheeseburger, Five Guys burgers and fries. Anywho, I just don't know with what's going on. Like even the Great Recession made sense. I mean, it made god-awful, horrible sense. Like that was the thing, like when the Great Recession happened, we were like, what the fuck? And then like you sat there and you could sit there and you could understand what happened. No matter how absurd it was, like the credit default swaps, the whole thing with the subprime loans, the ballooning mortgages, the credit default swaps. Like it was like dumb. It was like so dumb. Nobody should have built that system. That was just a system that should not have gotten built. But then when you sit there and then you start understanding what happened, you're like, I get it. I mean, you're just saying like, well, I grasp the concept. I grasp the idiocy. There is a comfort to that. There is a comfort to being able to understand the economic disaster that you're wading through. I think the issue now is we're literally dealing with an economic disaster based off the whims of one man in a system that we were all told shouldn't work this way. Again, the checks and balances, right? You have the executive, you have the legislative, you have the judicial. The whole idea is one human being should not be able to crash the American economy. And then not only do we have one human being trying to crash the American economy, but apparently they're doing it by a whim. It's not even like, oh, here's the blueprint. We're going through the Gantt chart on economic destruction. It's just like, oh yeah, well, we were gonna do something, but then people got yippy, so we decided not to do it. And I'm sorry. What are the levels of yippiness? Trump administration. Yeah. Is there a yip gauge? Can I go to Amazon and purchase a yip gauge? I'm just like in the background here. I'm just gonna have a yip gauge. I'll be like, oh look. Oh yeah, yips are at 90% today. Yips are at 90%. That means I guess we're gonna get back offs on the tariffs. Oh no, yips are down at 10%. 10%, yep, I guess the tariffs are gonna go up. But no, we just have like, what? I don't know what it is. So anyways, some things to ponder, some things to think about. Do remember, these time periods do come, and they do go. Even the Great Depression came and went. I mean, it's horrible to say. Even World War II came and went. Even the Holocaust, there was an end. So, anyways, whatever's going on now, for the young folks out there, just realize at some point it will be over. At some point you'll be like, wow, remember 16 years ago? Yeah, think about that. The Great Recession, Bear Stearns, was 2009, 16 years ago. At some point, this will be 16 years in the past. Actually, I can be a lot more specific. 16 years from now, this will be 16 years in the past. So the one thing I would tell you, again, on the advice for you folks, is just remember, there will be a tomorrow, there will be a day after, there will be a year after. And so you need to be thinking about how do you position yourself, not just for today, but how do you position yourself for after this crap show is over? And again, whether that's training, whether that's moving up leadership. I mean, that's something you can think about now. Like if you know the next step in your career is to go into leadership, but you don't want to transfer departments or do anything else because you don't want to get laid off, right? Like this might be the time to start volunteering at organizations and volunteer for leadership positions. Go to the soup kitchen, right? Go to the soup kitchen and then volunteer to be a manager for the soup kitchen, right? Go and Boys and Girls Club, volunteer to do the scheduling and that kind of thing. Church groups or whatever else, volunteer to lead field trips, right? Leadership is, again, like with all these skills, they're basically kind of sort of the same. You know what I talked about before, like with computer repair, is that, if you fix your grandmother's Windows computer, it's basically the same thing as a CEO's Windows computer, right? Basically, again, CEO's got Active Directory, your grandma doesn't. But more or less, computer is computer. That's the interesting thing with so many of these skills. More or less, leadership is leadership. More or less, management is management. Right? So if you can go to a food bank and you can volunteer for more of the manager level work that's being done there, and then you can optimize their workflows, right? So I came in as a volunteer. What I found is that when people were dropping off food, there was not an efficient way to process that food and inventory the food, ergo they're running into issues where food was expiring. So what I did is when I came in, especially since you're a technology professional, I came up with a system so that every food item that came in, it was automatically logged in the system and the expiration date was put in. Then basically, once all that stuff was in there, we then came up with an automated process so that when people came to the food bank, they could say what their intolerances were or their allergies or whatever else. It would automatically create basically a pick pick list for that particular person, and then we'd have people run through, and then we made sure we weren't giving wheat noodles to people that had gluten intolerance, and we're also making sure that if products were going to expire in 2 weeks, that they immediately left to go with the people instead of sitting there and expiring on the shelves, right? You went in, you determined that there was a problem, you created a solution for the problem, and you implemented the overall workflow within the organization in order to make that solution a success. Right? Now it may suck, right? You're doing 40 hours a week doing your normal thing. Now you're doing an additional 10 hours a week at the food bank or whatever else. But again, in 4 years or whatever, when the economy's better, you will now have that management and leadership experience on top of your technology experience. And so when team lead positions open up, management positions open up, biz dev positions open up, you will be more qualified to be able to take that. Just because the economy becomes a disaster does not mean you should stop in your career progression. Anyways, at least that's my opinion. At least that's my opinion. Yeah, so that's about all I got to say. I am going to Web Summit, Vancouver, in about a month and a half. So there's something called Web Summit. It's a big startup event. I've gotten my media pass for that, so I will be in Vancouver March 27th to 30th. So I don't know if you're in Vancouver or whatever. I'll be up there. I'll be doing a lot of interviews. Again, that's one of the reasons I'm also trying to figure out this whole system, not just so it's a more portable system for the whole digital nomad thing, but so I can just take this and then I can go and do interviews. Because that's one of the things I want to do more with Silicon Dojo is get you folks to hear more stories. That's, with the whole DEI initiative, right? The DEI initiative is so wrong in so many ways, but, there's a grain of truth in much of it, right? And that whole idea of you cannot be what you cannot see, which, there's something there. I feel like they push it too far. I feel like people push everything too far. But I think that's one of the big things is like so many of you folks now, right? You're going out and you're learning Python, right? You're taking the Python class. You're learning SQL. You're going learning AI or whatever else. You want to get your A+ or your Security Plus. But the weird part is, like you're getting these certifications in this world where all you can see is certifications. But you don't even really know what the hell to do with the certificate. Like when I do these one-on-one conversations, it's amazing how many of you have no fucking clue what to do with the certification you're gonna get. I'm like, okay, what certification you're gonna get? Literally, I'm gonna get the CCNA. Like, okay, so what are you going to do with the CCNA once you got it? Like, Jesus. Oh, and so that's why I want more. Again, with Martin Lehner next week, I'm putting out emails and feelers to more people. So hopefully we'll do that at least once a week. We can start to do interviews and that type of thing so that you folks see more of what it is that we actually do. So that you understand more why it is that we get paid and what it is we actually get paid for. Because I think there's just in this insane just blank out there. It's like the underpants gnomes, right? It's like I'm gonna go get certifications, gonna be millionaire. Something happens in between. It's like I feel like we have brought up a generation of underpants gnomes, and that's just not how any of this works. So, anyways, that is what part of the thing of what I'm trying to progress with all of this stuff. But anyways, that is all I've got to say for now. So I'll see y'all later.